Willard Simpson is a retired farmer who lives in Franklin Grove between Rochelle and Dixon. He was raised in Fairfield, east of St. Louis, fought under General Patton as a combat engineer on the race to Berlin, and came back to build a long and happy life. And he found himself recognized during the recent Mendota Sweet Corn Festival parade. He has a friend who has a niece who herself has bought her great-grandparents' house in Mendota, and when that happened, we were introduced to Willard. And thanks to the sponsorship of Kathleen Whalen of Whalen Financial in LaSalle, I'll be sharing parts of our phone interview this week and coming up too. See, Willard turns 100 years old on September 3rd, and so it just seems appropriate to tell you all about a person who should be celebrated. So this week you're going to hear about his time in World War II in Europe. In a future installment, you're going to learn how he built a successful life, at one point owning several farms. After having worked in southern Illinois oil fields and as a hired man learning the business of farming in northern Illinois. If you'd like to hear the full cut of the interview now, you can find it on YouTube at the Starved Rock Media channel on the Tom's Take playlist. Here's the first part.
I took my training out in Bend, Oregon, which was a combat engineer training, and we took training on building pontoon bridges, mostly, and demolition.
I'm sorry. What was the last part there? I'm sorry.
Demolition.
Demolition. Okay, so you built and you blew up.
Building minefields.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
That must have been dangerous work.
Once you found the minefield, which weren't too hard to find, actually, and then you knew their pattern.
Of how they would place the mines?
Yeah, or they placed the mines. I forget now, but something like 10 feet apart. I don't think it's quite that, maybe about 7 or 8 feet apart.
Well, the issue is, though, that it's whatever it was, they were consistent.
Yes.
And so you had a good idea of where the next mine was going to be.
Yes. We knew their pattern. Yeah.
That must have been a huge help, actually.
Oh, it was a big help, yes.
You were in Europe then in 1945. You were in the Third Army?
The 28th Division, Infantry Division, had lost a lot of men on the Battle of the Bulge.
Oh, that was a Christmas of 1944, yeah.
Yes, 44. Mm-hmm.
So you came in as a combat replacement then?
Yes.
So in January then you're there, and you're in Patton's army.
Yes.
And that's about the time that Patton's army was on the run. I mean, moving forward, putting the Germans on the run at that point, right? Yes. You must have played an important part in that then, in the pursuit, if you were building bridges that maybe they blew up and retreating or something like that?
Yes, they blew the bridges up so our army couldn't catch them. Yeah.
And so then your job would be to try to get those pontoon boats together so that your troops could go.
We built, I can think of about 3 bridges.
Okay.
Pontoon bridges.
You're in the middle of a segment of an interview I did on the phone this past week with Willard Simpson, a World War II vet with a connection to Starved Rock Country, who is soon to celebrate his 100th birthday. Here's more. Tell me a little bit about do you have any really interesting stories to share from your time there that you've told to family and friends over the years?
Oh, not really.
Mm-hmm.
During my time in combat, it was such a cold winter, and our outfit slept in tents.
Oh.
I don't recall we ever had anything else but tents. Sometimes we'd lay down evergreen branches on ground because it was frozen ground, and then we'd lay our sleeping bag on these branches, which I don't know. We always thought it helped.
I think that's a Boy Scout trick, so I think it's tried and true. Yes, and they got it from the Army.
There's two to a tent usually.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
I think. Of course, I was a corporal, and I think that kind of helped that I didn't. I like two to a tent rather than sleeping in a big tent like some of the boys had to sleep in. I don't know how many was in a tent, but a lot of people anyway.
I see. So as a corporal, you were entitled to certain things, and go ahead.
Yes, I had a little
comfort. Do you ever sit back? So let me ask you this really quickly. Let's stay in Europe for just a minute. Were you ever personally in the presence of General Patton?
Oh, I've seen General Patton several times. Yes.
All right, take away the movies and everything else. What was he like as one of his soldiers? What was it like to see the general when you knew you were one of his guys?
We knew he was a tough man.
Mm-hmm.
And boy, if he seen you throwing Kleenex or napkin or a cigarette on the ground, you picked it up.
Okay. He wanted to leave Europe better than he found it, I guess.
He didn't want us to leave anything behind.
That's a good policy, I think.
And we knew better. We knew better.
Yeah, that can tip off the enemy if they come across it or whatever. If nothing else, just the fact that it's wrong too. So he came in and he shook things up, and I imagine though, you could admit it now these years later. Did you guys in the Third Army maybe think, we've got Patton, we're pretty good at this job, we know what we're doing, our stuff's all shined, we're good? There was a certain pride with being in the Patton's army?
Well, I never thought of it that way. I just knew we had a job, and he was commander, and we knew not to do what he didn't want us to do.
Well, he had you guys moving at ungodly speeds and distances in short periods of time.
Yes.
I had a great time talking with Willard. To me, anyway, it's a privilege to talk to people who lived what I've only read about. Each one of them has a story that seems bigger, braver, more consequential than anything I'm doing, certainly, and many of the later generations just don't seem to have. We're losing a treasure to time as we lose our heroes. Coming up in a near future video, you'll see more of my talk with Willard Simpson. You'll hear more about his connection to Mendota, his upcoming birthday party, and what he really still wants to accomplish in his life. Thanks again to Kathleen Wayland of Wayland Financial in LaSalle for sponsoring this Weekend Reset. Talk to you in the morning.